All right. If everyone could please take their seats, we're about to start. Can I have you just kind of hush down for a little bit? All right, we're getting ready to start. Aaron, could you do that again? All right, there we go. We got him. All right. We're going to call the meeting to order at 11 o'clock. First, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wouldn't mind, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag right up front. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to move forward for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I get a second? So approved. Thank you. Today's lunch sponsor is Train and Tour. Let's give a nice round of applause for Train and Tour.
Huh?
They have our wonderful, I don't know, what is this thing they have here today?
Well, yes. Yeah, make sure you get this. What are these? These are delicious.
These are very fancy.
It was Train and Tour and American Pacific Mortgage were the sponsors for this, Mike Sweeney. And you'll see some of American Pacific Mortgage and some Train and Tour people back there to tell them thanks for the great food. And Train and Tour, Mike, what is Train and Tour?
I know a lot of you folks in this room have been to Train and Tour over the last 8 so years. Show of hands, who's been at TNT? Oh, wow, nice. Wow. Anyway, Train and Tour is 8.5 years ago, myself, Southern Nevada Home Builders Association, and what was then GLVR, came together to, we had a little issue with the builders and the realtors, so I drew the short straw to mend the fences, if you remember the old days. So Train and Tour was a program we were going to do for about 2-3 months, 8.5 years ago. Basically what we do is we have you come into our training room at 8 p.m. American Pacific is our big, huge sponsor who without we couldn't do it. You come into our training room, we have different VPs from all the different builders come in, present their different communities, tell you a lot of insight, selling techniques for selling new homes because it is different. And then we put you on a big 50-foot limo bus and go look at a bunch of beautiful communities. So we've been doing that for a little over 8 years. We've done a couple hundred tours. We've probably had about 6,000 agents, hundreds and hundreds of models, and we've sold probably upwards of 1,500 houses in 8 years through TNT. So that we have another one next week. Once you're in our database, you'll get all our invites. Next week we go to Tule Springs, and it's just been a huge thing. And the realtors, it's very beneficial for you guys, and it's very beneficial for the builders too, as you can imagine. Again, thank you for coming, and especially for Steve and Noah for putting us on and letting us be your sponsors today. And we're here to help you guys sell houses, be it new or existing homes.
Thank you, Mike.
At the last at our Crystal Ball January trend meeting, we said that everybody should get a new home strategy in place because of the information that was coming down that we're going to talk about today. And then last trends meeting, we had the new home boom. We had all the home builders up here. If anyone was here, we couldn't have called that better, right? The new homes, this is the biggest new home boom probably ever. And
2008.
Yeah, and if you don't have a new home strategy or you're behind on new homes, definitely Train and Tour TNT is a great way to catch up with the new home product right away. Because after what we're seeing right now, the new home product has to be part of our in our toolbox to supply these buyers with homes, because there's not going to be enough resales to supply all the buyer demand. And in fact, the last new home boom, we said there was going to be a shortage because of all these other reasons. And now we have a new reason with forbearances that we'll talk today. So the new home strategy is huge. Mike, who finances all this?
Say me, but American Pacific's our biggest sponsor by far. Old Republic Title has been with us for half a dozen years. I'm very happy to say Howard Hughes called me over the weekend. They're about to join back in. And Southern Nevada Home Builders, of course. So mainly it's American Pacific Mortgage, where I happen to have a real job. I just don't drive you guys around in big buses. So it's APM that really supports TNT over the last few years.
Yeah, in fact, the last event was at D.R. Horton in Cadence, and there was, I know, a couple realtors that were able to take some of the buyers they've been working with for 6 months. Including me. I had a buyer, too, that was able to find something there after a year. They were looking years of several realtors, 6 months, because of TNT's relationship and getting the word out. So thanks for that.
Yeah, we sold 5 houses at that tour that day.
So it was great.
Training tour, guys. It's
5 houses were sold in one day.
And we started live streaming this month as well.
And how many new homes are sold the last 90 days?
Oh, you just put me on the spot.
2,900. So 29.
I was going to say,
It was your data. I got the information from you. So the last 90 days, the new home builders was 2,937. So that was almost a third of all the homes that were sold. In fact, I think in January there was 1,900 resales and 1,200 new homes. That's almost half. So this is why new homes is it has to be part of the product mix. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. Got to mention also, NAR Volunteer Day is Friday, June 9th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Classroom A. So if you're bored, you want to volunteer, you feel like giving back, or you have nothing to do, please come here and volunteer. You'll be stuffing bags with product to distribute to the homeless community, which is kind of a big deal. Also, we'd like to introduce our speaker panel. For those of you that don't know, Steve Hawks is your chair here today. Mike Sweeney, for those who don't know, he's a mortgage executive, been with Train & Tour. I've known Mike for 25 plus years. Next to him, Aaron. Aaron is, for those, does anybody not know anybody up here? Because these guys are kind of all like a really big deal. Aaron is also a superstar mortgage guy. These are the guys during the REO boom when it was going. Aaron was working for Bank of America, and he was like, he could walk on water. He could moonwalk on water. Countrywide first, and he would help us get REO accounts. So, but he's transitioned, he's been able, all these guys have been able to transition from a short sale market, a REO market, different types of markets, and they're all continuously successful. Jim Bandy, what can you say about Jim Bandy? Jim Bandy is a serial entrepreneur, businessman, finance, real estate investor, not only here, but throughout the country. Buys houses, fixes houses, development, multi-units, everything. And the man himself, Aaron. I've known Aaron since he used to sell shoes at the Meadows Mall. He used to sell Buster Browns, but you know what? He don't do that anymore, in case you don't know. Now he's a real estate guy. Incredibly successful, does a lot of investments, does things throughout the whole country, public speaker also. And his last thing he just did, Siegfried and Roy's house, if you don't know, he bought it and sold it and made $1 million in under 60 days. With that, Steve, you have the floor.
So we've, how many realtors here were realtors in 2011? Raise your hand. Okay, so about half, maybe 40%. So you remember AB 284, and you remember the foreclosure laws that pretty much stopped all the foreclosures and put a floor on prices, and inventory was pretty bleak then, and there wasn't really new homes at the time because the new homes were upside down. What the new homes were trying to sell for $300,000, and the resales were going for $75,000 to $150,000. The average resale is $135,000, and it was the worst economy ever, right? But home prices started skyrocketing. It started going up. And why is that? Because the economy got better? Because people made more money? Because people got better jobs? Not really. What happened? They decreased the supply by 70 to 80%. We went from 12,000, 13,000 homes to like 2,500 homes on the market in about 30 days. And we're seeing a similar situation right now. The government and the Fed are fighting each other about what they want to happen, right? The Fed told us that they want to increase housing inventory. Remember, a year ago, Jerome Powell said that housing is out of balance. They want to create more inventory for buyers to choose from, and they need to bring down the house prices, and they want to reset the market. Well, he got halfway there, right? And then the U.S. government says, no, that's enough of that, right? And they've frozen the prices. And right here, AB 284, this was in 2011, right? This is the law that changed it, and it's so similar to what's going on right now. So you can kind of predict what's going to happen based on the past, right? It doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And this is one of the best rhymes ever because we're seeing the exact same thing happen. Remember, a few months ago, there was about 10,000 houses on the market, and probably in another 30 days, we'll be below 3,000 again. Look how quickly it dropped. And this time, it wasn't because of foreclosure laws, because last time, most of the loans were owned by who? Private, Countrywide, right? They were not owned, but Countrywide did our loans. They sold them off to private institutions, private banks, so they could do whatever they wanted. So the government had to put in foreclosure laws to stop the foreclosures, and that's one thing. There was a lot of foreclosure laws, state and federal. AB 254 is one of them. Well, today, most of the loans are owned by the government, so they don't have to do any foreclosure laws. They can just put in these directives. And I want to, and at our crystal ball in January and then February, we talked about this was going to happen, and we knew this was going to happen because it was on the website of HUD. All right. January 30th, they announced that they were going to do major overhaul of the forbearances. So all the forbearances that were done previously, you had to have a COVID reason. Well, this directive right here that was released on January 30th says that you do not have to have COVID as a reason. You can basically ask for forbearance for any reason. And then if anyone wants a copy of this, just give me your email. We can email it out, or we can have LVR. Just give me your email. I can send this out because this is super important for us to know, especially if you're talking to a seller who wants to list the house, or if they're behind on payments, or they might go behind on payments, so they're having a problem. And the reason why they're doing this now, and here we go to the similarities and the differences between 2011 and now. In 2011, people couldn't make their mortgage payment because of adjustable rate mortgages, right? Now people aren't able to make their credit card payments, then their house payments, and their credit card and car payments because of what? No, they already had the interest rates low. Why can't they make their payments? Adjustable rate of cost of living, right? The cost of living is going up for them, so these other bills are getting stepped to the website, being pushed to the wayside. So the government is like, hey, how can we do this? Well, one way we can fix this is what? Do the same thing we did in 2011. If we delay the house payments or drop the house payments, this is able to take these funds and keep up with the cost of living. And that's exactly what is happening right now. And part of the directive, this is 14 pages, but the part that's very important is they announced this in January 30th. This is why we said there was going to be a no home boom, because we knew that a large percentage of these homes were going to be taken off the market, and the sellers are going to go into forbearance. The servicers and FHA was starting to send that information out, and as more people learned about it, then they would take their house off the market and do the forbearance, because the forbearance gives you a lot of opportunity. And this right here, the last 90 days, it was voluntarily for the servicers. Starting May 1st, it's mandatory. So it's mandatory FHA loans have to do this now. And this is right there on the page. So we'll go off of this real quick. And basically what it's allowing the servicer to drop the principal by 25% to get that payment of what the seller can afford. This allows them to put their bills towards, put their money towards other things, car payment, credit card, cost of living, food, all that. And the interesting point right here is this is from them. So this isn't worded or any kind of opinion. This is on their website. It says, this increase will help more borrowers who cannot return to making their current mortgage payments to reduce their mortgage balance to a level that permits them to achieve a target payment reduction of at least 25% despite today's higher interest rates. So this is a big change in our industry, right? This is a lot of inventory that's not going to come on the market in at least the next 18 to 24 months, probably longer. And then after this, don't forget, we just came up with the 2%, they came up with a 2% 40-year loan modification program, which we saw in 2014, 2013. That was the number one reason that stopped the foreclosures, was the loan mods that they did at the 2% 40-year rate. And that leads to other unintended consequences that we'll talk about.
Hey, Steve, let me just jump in there real quick. You know, who was around in 2008? So what lesson was learned in 2008? Foreclosure is a bad idea. Okay. It's okay if you go into foreclosure. It's not okay if all your neighbors go into foreclosure as well, right? So working in a place like, I don't think I should mention on video, but the biggest bank in America, okay? You know, think about the headlines in the Wall Street Journal. Think about Darcy Spears on Channel 13 News showing up with a single mom getting kicked out of her house. It's bad vibe, it's bad juju, it's bad press, right? So the way that banks decided to liquidate those assets on distressed borrowers was to sell them to big hedge funds like Blackstone and stuff. And so that's why you see they own millions and millions of homes. The reason for that is that if you owe $300,000 on your home and you can't make your payment, right? And even though the house may be worth $400,000, the big bank in America doesn't want to deal with that. They don't like real estate. We love real estate. Banks hate real estate. Banks love deposits. Banks love investments. They don't like real estate. It's too messy, right? So as a result, there's a lot of people out there promoting the fact that foreclosures are coming back, right? How many people have seen foreclosures are coming back or been invited to a webinar, how you're going to make a fortune off foreclosures coming back? Foreclosures are not coming back.
That's right.
They're not coming back. There's a lot of things that I'm not absolute about. I'm absolute about that, okay? And it's for all the reasons that we stated. It's just a bad business. Now, so there's so many other things that they can do. If you think about it, look at the early days of the pandemic, right? We're all locked in our houses. Businesses are shut. What was like the first government act? What was the first thing they said? Stop making your house payment, right? You don't have to make your house payment. Wasn't that kind of strange? Well, why'd they do that? Because of the lesson of 2008, right? We don't want all these houses back. It'll kill the economy. Don't make your payment. So to like Steve's point, they sense it coming back around. They know unemployment's not going to stay low forever. They're trying to force unemployment up. And so they're being proactive by saying that if you have a distressed homeowner, that distressed homeowner could stay there a very long time. Now, I don't think you should go back and tell your buyers, your home sellers that, right? Because they may get foreclosed on. Individuals will get foreclosed on. We just won't see the mass like we once saw.
Well, I mean, with all these programs, it's got I don't know how you get foreclosed on right now. I mean, back in 2008, they were the sellers were saying, I want to save my house, save my house, save my house. Today, the banks are saying, stay. Well, I don't care. Stay. So that's a big difference right now, and that impacts the supply side big time, right? Big time on the supply side.
But Steve, one thing to make sure is that if you're dealing with a distressed homeowner who can't make their payments, it's the same rule that we dealt with in 2008. The biggest problem in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011 was people ignored the bank, right? That's who got foreclosed on, even when the rules changed, because they weren't answering their phone. People were trying to knock on their door. They wouldn't answer their door. They were too afraid. Today, if they simply pick up the phone and explain the situation and come up, just tell them what they can afford. They can't say, I can afford zero. Okay, that's probably not going to work. But as long as they call and they're honest, look at Steve's going through an FHA program with you right now that'll cut 25% off the payment. They can do a 40-year loan on an FHA refinance. Doesn't work on a purchase, right? So there's so many options. They are on standby for distressed homeowners, right? They're not going to, in all likelihood, they're not going to take your home so long as you're honest with them and you try to work it out.
Yeah, you don't even have to. This right here says for any reason. Before, the forbearances had to be COVID related. Now it says right here, for any reason. So this is important information for buyers that are waiting for the market to go down some more. We've already seen the reset, right? We said it was going to go down 15 to 25%. The Fed said that. What we're seeing right now is the Fed civil war, right? Like Aaron said, this is not what the Fed wants to see right now, okay? This is the last thing the Fed wants to see, because inflation is 20%, or housing is 23% of the inflation numbers. So we got housing going up, going back up, so that's going to impact it. So seeing lower rates is going to be a big deal. Aaron, real quick, how is that impacting, how does programs like this impact the cash out refi?
Well, there's really,
Is there reason to cash out refi anymore?
cash out refi is, anybody trying to get a cash out refi lately, right? So what's the interest rate look like? 7.5%, 8%, 9%. Home equity line of credit. Look, the prime rate's 9%, right? So if you turn to a home equity line of credit, it's probably going to be 10, 11%, right? But cash out refi in a lot of situations is to bail somebody out, right? I'm not doing well. I got a lot of equity. How do I tap into my equity? If I get $100,000 out, I'll use a bunch to make my payments as well. Well, now there's no reason to do that, right? Just pick up the phone and work out a forbearance of some kind. You don't need the cash out for that. The only reason really to take cash out today, which is a problem in the market, which is, right now we're sitting on the oldest houses in history. The average home in the United States is 40 years old. It's never been that old. Okay, so what happens when a home is 40 years old? Things start to fall apart, right? And people are staying longer because they have a 2.5%, 3% interest rate, right? So now the roof is damaged and it costs 10 grand. How do you come up with 10 grand? So those are the things that are related to cash out refinances today. So, but that's also good news for all of us in terms of people finally having to leave their 2.5% to 3% interest rate and sell the house. Because a lot of them will be faced with a damaged roof. What's a roof cost, Jim? Roof costs $10,000. They'll be faced with a roof that has to be repaired. They don't want to do the $10,000. They'll just go move on and sell their house. So some of that I think is going to happen.
Yeah, that's good news that's one thing, another direction that the new home boom is going to continue for at least 18 to 24 months, probably longer, but at least 18 to 24 months. And keep that thought right there, because what Aaron just talked about, that has created a huge opportunity for realtors that are in the trenches. I'm talking life-changing opportunity, and Jim's going to talk about that in a little bit. Mike, you were huge. You've been in the real estate, new homes, loans for a long time. How is this similar to 2011, and how is it different?
Well, the intervention now is the feds. What you guys got to understand is when this happened to us in 2007, 8, 9, which started in 6, we didn't know as lenders, as banks, how to handle it. This was the first time event for us. None of us were around in 1929, at least speaking for myself. Some people might disagree with that. So now we got a handle on it. We know what to do. So to Steve and Aaron, when everyone's saying these forbearances, the feds don't want, again, foreclosures are a horrifying thing to be in. B of A or my old boss's Jamie Dimon's books. So they're going to try to negate it, but we're still going to have an issue. As far as the builders go, they're in nirvana right now. We've never been ever at 30% of the market share in our town. And I've talked to a few of them, and a couple of you guys work with builders here in town. Even KB is spec building 100 houses. And for KB, that's mind-boggling, because they know that we're not going to have some existing homes hit the market here for a while. So Steve's right, you have to get new homes in your showing portfolios, you guys. You really do.
Yeah, you have to learn that inventory. In 90, when I first started in 98 to 2002, that's all we did was new homes. Very, very little resale, because there's so many people coming in that there wasn't very much resale, so it was all new homes. But there was new homes were also 90,000, 100,000, and they're all over the place. So that's how it's going to be for the foreseeable future, because we know with this and the other programs that are coming down the pipeline. Well, hold off on that, bro. That's another one. So the another thing that we're seeing for the first time also, Aaron, we talked about this yesterday, is in the past, 90% of the time people would sell their house and then go buy another home, right? Because that was the more economical thing to do. Well, now if you do an analysis, most of the time, that's not the most economical thing to do anymore, right? Which is changing. A lot of the things going on right now, we can't compare to like the 80s, 70s, 60s, 90s, whatever, way in the back, because the rules have really changed. You cannot compare anymore to the past. Even in 2005, we can't use that. We can't use the 90s anymore because of all these government interventions. And here's another perfect example. People are now, and this is counteracting what the Fed wanted to do with the, when people, instead of selling their house now, they're renting their house because of how many times do you see this now where people are using that income to rent, they're renting the house they're in, they buy another house. So their house is whatever, $2,500 a month payment. Well, if they put the money down, their house would be $3,000. If they sold their house, it would be $2,000 a month, right? Well, wait a minute. Why don't I just keep this house? I'm going to profit $1,500. So now that $2,500 payment is really $1,000 instead of $2,000. So I got somebody in there paying, making a payment that's paying off my old house and my new house.
What are the smart play right now is not to sell your house. The play is that you have a 3% interest rate, inflation's at 5%, rent the house, and rents have gone up, right? So if you make $2,000 a month renting your house, What does it matter if you're paying 6.5% of the new house? Somebody else is paying that for you, and you get all these things you want, and you get to avoid Jim coming out to your house and changing your roof or offering you 50 cents on the dollar to do it for you. Do the whole thing.
Well, one of the that leads us to the what are Mike, Aaron, real quick. So the transformation of mortgage companies is basically going to change at least for 5 years, probably forever. I mean, we see Rocket Homes. I think they lost $400 million last quarter or something, the largest. A lot of lenders are saying, "Hey, you know what? We're not gonna. We're done." How is that going to impact rates? How is that going to impact the how many products that buyers have in the future, and also the volume of money, right? The volume of money that's going to be going through is going to be a lot less. These ATMs are coming to an end. I mean, partly the Fed wants this ATM coming to an end. We'll go with Mike first. How is this going to impact the economy, and what are these lenders? Because you're talking with these guys at the top level. These big. What are they going to do, and how are they going to replace that income that they've lost at refis, or they just have to change their business model?
Well, in a simple word, they're going to run mortgage banks for the first time ever. I think we lose money on every transaction we close. That's the first time, and that's not just one or three of us. That's all of us across the board. So a lot of us are going to disappear this year, unfortunately. The regional bank thing is going to be a big effect on us when the commercial office thing, because it's a trickle-down effect. But one thing I do know, I've done this for a long time, when sales get thin like they are, we'll come out with our programs. Wall Street will come back in our business. They'll create some crazy loans like they did back in the day, the fuel the beast. So I think there might be some crazy loans coming down the pike, only for the really big firms to offer. The Rockets of the world are going to be a big problem for both of us on both sides, lending and the real estate side. So we're all just going to have to really hunker down. I don't know if anybody really knows what's going to happen in the next 18 months. So I think we got 18 months of pain still coming.
Well, I think there's some things we can count on. So less competition means what? Higher rates, right? Less liquidity means what? Less loans, right? And, most loans are backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But what loans are really going to be affected? Jumbo loans, right? So as liquidity shrinks, meaning as the banks, you see what's happening with banks, right? People are running their deposits out of small banks and throwing them into Bank of America and Chase and giant banks because they're so afraid of small regional banks. Small regional banks are who does most of the financing on the commercial side. They do a lot of jumbo financing. So you're going to see jumbo financing, I think, become a lot more difficult over the next 12 to 18 months. And then I think you're just going to see, like Mike said, you're going to see a shakeout of some lenders. But most of us sell to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We just got to make sure we try to keep our margins. And I think that most lenders that are smart, in terms of the local lenders, are selling products that we should all be selling anyway, which are bank statement loans and no doc. As everybody knows, there's a no doc investor loan, and there's a bunch of products out there in the non-QM space, non-qualified mortgage space, meaning not backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, that are available to loan officers to survive and to companies to survive. And we should be selling those products. And look, at the end of the day, there's a massive refinance opportunity ahead, because as soon as rates even start to come down a half a point, right? If you're at 7% today and rates go down to 6.5%, are you refinancing? Probably. And then when it goes to 6%, you're probably doing it again. So we're not dead in the refinance. We probably are for about another year or so, I'd say. But yeah, there's going to be a constriction of banks and a constriction of credit, and we just have to deal with that.
Yeah, and another unique thing right now is for real estate, the more bad news we hear in the economy is actually good news for real estate, because the rates are going to come down. We'll talk about what likelihood that's going to happen. But just remember that the residential real estate market has a protective dome over it, okay? So no matter what happens on the outside of the economy, the government, FHA and HUD and Fannie have pretty much protected the real estate. We live in a centrally planned economy now, right? So they've protected it. Their bailouts, so we already know their playbook. They're going to do whatever they can to keep the housing market level right now, right? The price drops have probably stopped for at least the foreseeable future because of what the government is doing. So we're going to see a lot of mayhem going on all over here. But as far as residential real estate, buyers need to know that you might see this bad news over here, this bad news over here. But for residential, we'll get questions at the end, like 15 minutes, quick, Chris. In the what we're going to see over here and over here with multifamily and commercial is not going to impact residential in prices as much, right? But it's going to impact other ways, which we'll talk about a little bit. So there's your $1,000. Hey.
There's money falling out of the skies, guys. Money falling out of the skies.
Hey.
There's good symbolism in that.
If that is not the perfect example of what's happened to your dollar right now, nothing is. I mean, that's a perfect example of why you need to buy hard assets. That's a perfect example of why you need to buy real estate, because eventually your paper assets are going to fall to the ground. All right.
Hey, Steve, let me just say one thing. You know, we don't want to be Debbie Downers up here. There's a lot to be excited about in the market, especially the Las Vegas market. You know, and one thing that I do want to point out is that we've talked a lot about home builders today. Why are home builders so successful right now? What are they offering? Low rates. They offer lower rates, right? How do they do that? Right? There was a study that came out, and you can Google the article. 71% of home buyers say they will not buy a house if the rate is higher than 5.5%. Anybody else see that? You can get the rate to 5.5%.
That's right.
Okay? So have your lender quote a 5.5% rate. If that's what meet the buyers where they are, right? If you have a lender who's showing it people a 7% rate, well, of course they're going to say, no, I'm not buying a house, right? But you haven't shown, maybe a 4-point buy down. It could be. That bad credit could be a 5-point buy down. Maybe tough to get the loan approved that way, but it's there. And you have sellers willing to come down in price, right? Mostly. Or they're willing to raise the price up to give it an incentive. Right? So it's important that you guys partner with your lender to say, look, here's where the market is today. We have to meet the buyer in the market. We can't sit here and sulk about it and say, well, when rates come back down, we're all going to crush it again, right? We create the opportunity given to us today. You know, the other day I was flying home, and I went to the Dunkin' Donuts, and the Dunkin' Donuts had a massive line. And the lady got up there and who was serving everybody, and she said, we're out of latte, we're out of bagels, we're out of the eggs, we're out of this, we're out of half of these donuts, whatever you see there we have, we're out of almond milk. Nobody left the line. Okay, that's what they're out of. At least she was honest, right? Well, we're out of 5.5% rates today. We got to figure out how to get back to it, right? The way we get back to it is to buy it up.
Well, I mean, it's not even a theory. All you got to do is look at the new home builders. I know 7 people that were hired by new home builders in the last 30 days. So they're ramping up. Why are they ramping up? Because they know there's a huge buyer demand out there, right? The problem is the supply. Well, there is not a supply problem anymore with KB doing 100 coming on the online, and all these new homes that are going to just explode in the next 6 to 9 months. And don't forget, at our last meeting, we talked about how the builders have more inventory coming on the market in the next 12 months than ever before. Even 2008, it was a 30,000 house different than 2008. So there's plenty of inventory out there, and the builders have already cracked the code. They're like, hey, this is the payment. People don't buy price. They don't buy rate. They buy payment. And the builders obviously have figured that out, and that's why they're exploding, which shows, you know, if a buyer's like, I'm waiting for prices to drop, well, new home prices are actually lower than most resales in areas. So you can just tell that buyer, look, there's the price. Those prices aren't going down from right there. That resale might be a little bit more, but that new home price, there it is, okay? And guess what? They got 100 people trying to get that house at that price. So we know that unlike 2008, you couldn't give away a new home. Today, it's the complete opposite. You can't get a new home pretty soon because they're going to be out.
Well, and it's cyclical, everybody. So builders pulled more permits last year than any time in their history because of what happened, right? Low rates, massive demand. They couldn't meet the demand. It takes them time to build houses. They pulled a massive amount of permits. What do you think happened when rates went to 6? They stopped pulling permits. So a year ago, they stopped pulling permits. What's going to happen? So depending on who you believe in the world, there's supposedly 7 million too few housing units in the United States today, which is one of the reasons why we have low inventory. By the end of this year, there'll only be 2 million too few. Now, that includes rental units too, but it shows you how much building is being done. And it all spawned from the pandemic. But when it's over, it's over. And you'll get your commissions back, Aaron. And so, you know, because next year when those houses are built and they didn't build houses and then they have to go pull permits to ramp up demand, I don't know how long it takes to build a house today on average.
I also think to add to that, having a turnkey house, I've closed 5 flips this month, and every single one I got at least list price or over. multiple offers. And so I think a lot of times people are looking at some of these older houses. They're like, hey, I got about $50,000, $100,000 into this property, and they just don't have the money to do it. So, fortunately for a flipper like myself or investors, it's a great opportunity to buy these properties from people that are distressed. They can't fix them up. Some of them aren't financeable. Half the ones that I buy, pool equipment's gone, roofs problems, leaks in roofs. And I'm, obviously people are bringing me these deals and I find them, pay cash for them, and we are able to fix them up and make them financeable. So unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily have to be a distressed situation where they're not paying their payments. Sometimes they just can't even sell the thing because it's in such bad shape. Some of the houses you got to see when we buy them, they're awful. I mean, they're almost not even, they need to be condemned almost, some of them. So, there is definitely a market to be able to fix these houses up, put them back on the market. I'm not paying any points. I've done 0 concessions on any flips that I've done in the last year. And again, builders are doing that, which they need to. Normally builders are going to be a little bit higher of a price, but with resales right now, people want a turnkey product. People are coming from California, New York, houses that are 50, 60, 70, 100 years old, and they look like they're brand new. Where, you come to Vegas, a lot of times houses are 10 years old and they look like they've been run over with a tank.
Well, you're right. People do want a turnkey product. And we have a program. It's good that you guys know, because a lot of this information that you receive today is like, what do we do with it, right? How does it help us? Where do we go from here? And some of these things that we all do are to help you guys. So he buys homes, he flips them, he pays cash for them, probably pays top dollar like myself. You guys do the commercial. But we have a great program that we put in place that will actually flip the property with the owner. We'll put the money out, charge them no interest, no nothing. We just want our full commission and our $8,000 transaction fee. That's all. And that was a joke. No, but full commission. But we do it for several reasons. One, we know that the house is going to sell. We know that we're going to get a higher price. We know we're going to make the seller happy, and we're just going to obtain more clients. So, as the market shifts and the market changes, which is constantly, right, Steve? Right, guys? Constantly. We have to be able to take this information, utilize it, and then move with the trends as well, create ourselves, but also be consistent in what you do. You can have a bad golf swing. If you're doing enough, the ball's going to go in the direction that you want it to after enough bad swings. But be consistent whatever you guys start. Don't be the guy that says, I'm going to go on the radio like Aaron Taylor and waste $10,000 and goes, this didn't work. No, you better do it 12 months and waste $100,000. You have to be consistent, right? But yeah, houses that are turnkey, I mean, that's money right there. We love them.
Well, it's a perfect example. You can use these examples with your buyers and sellers, what the market is. But this was what Aaron was referring to about the average house is 40 years old. But in 2011 and 2012, this right here, we said that AB 24 is the flipper's dream come true because it was going to stop all the foreclosures, right? And that created a huge opportunity for a new business. And in 2012, 2013, we said, hey, look, this is going to create a huge opportunity for flippers and for investors that flip homes. Why? Well, because a lot of those people in 2011 and 2012 and 2010, they hadn't made a mortgage payment since 2008 and 2009. So if they haven't made a mortgage payment, what else haven't they done? They haven't kept the property up, right? So what happened when that was such a huge niche that realtors were really not paying attention to? What happened? iBuyers, right? They saw the opportunity of this, and that's how they get started. They morphed into something bigger, but that was what they saw. That's what they saw. They saw a lot of small guys making a lot of money. Like, oh, we can do that. And if they would have stuck to their original business model, they would have kept on making a lot of money. But they saw that niche and they acted. Every realtor in the trenches should be picking up at least 1 to 2 flips a quarter. Even if you don't have the access to it, you can partner with someone, and you're going to come across a lot of them because we have a huge, huge, huge supply of homes that have not been updated and not maintained. You have the wave of loan modifications from people from 2008 to 2015, right? So all those homes that were not maintained. And then you have what happened in 2020 and 2022, right? So you have a second wave. So now we have more opportunities for flips. And why is it such an opportunity for us? Because we're in the trenches. We know what's going on. Every single one of you in this room has a lot of knowledge on what's going on with the real estate market and why you can be an advantage. Like Jim and Aaron were talking about, if a house needs to be updated and it's worth 200,000, you could take 20 grand and turn that into 280, right? So that 20 grand you turn into 60. Well, why doesn't the owner do it? Well, the owner can't do it because they're already maxed out, right? That's why they're in the situation. They're already maxed out. They can't have access. They can't get a cash out refi. They can't get a second. So you're helping them get top dollar because you heard Jim just say, and Aaron, they're buying these houses for what the value is of that house in its condition, right? They're not getting it below market with its condition. And that shows that's a way that realtors can create another cash flow, another revenue stream during these times. There's always everything that happens in real estate. There's really not bad news for if you're a realtor, right? It might be a bad news if you're a homeowner or if you're a buyer or somebody, but if you're a realtor, there's no such thing as bad news, right? You just have to adapt and move to whatever is happening in the market with this. Like Jim, you picked up what, 4 houses this month? 4 houses? How many houses did you pick up in the last 30 days?
5 are selling. I have 5 selling. I sold 3 already, and 2 more are selling next week. And I have 3 more in escrow to buy. And then my wholesalers, I actually met with one of my big ones yesterday. I told them I wanted to take down another 4 or 5 this month.
And you bought them all at close to market value for what they're worth.
I did. One of them, 379 Sanctuary. You guys can look it up. It was actually a probate sale. I actually went to the court. I went to court recently and I got outbid. I got blown out of the water on another one. But this one, there was actually nobody there. I got it at 400,000, and actually a neighbor bid me up to 410. So good for me. And I put about 65 grand into it. And I just closed it for 600,000. So it was a 120,000 profit. It was a good one. But right now I'm averaging about 22% ROI on my flips, and I'll just, it's a really good business right now. And again, if you don't have the capital, you can do hard money. There's lending home that you can get money from. I will say be very careful with the rates and the points. You can watch your profits get burned up, and you can end up in bankruptcy. In 2018, I had 12 flips going at the time. I stopped doing hard money at that time. The interest rates got up to 5%, if you remember at that time. I sold 9 of them, and I got stuck with 3 of them till the next year, and I had to pay the payments over that winter. I ended up renting a couple of them out for a little bit to kind of offset. So, it's one of those things, if you want to make the commission off of it, you can call me, Aaron. There's a lot of people that have cash in the financing. Noah back there.
No,
And, you guys get the commission. I have people, honestly, I have agents calling me every day. I put posts on Facebook. They're sending me properties, and they're like, "You can have the commission, right?" I'm like, "Of course, it's yours. As long as I can make money, we can all make money." So I think you feel the same way about it as well. We just want the deal.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we want the deal. And for you guys, call us if you have a house. Like, we're all just trying to make it in this business, right? I mean, most of us are just trying to make a living. And if you have a house and these people need a cash advance, if they're behind on their payments and they need to be caught up, if it helps the client, we're in a position that we can help them help you. You can still make that commission. If we need to fix their house up to get them the most money, we'll fix their house up, keep the listing if that's what it needs. I mean, we'll help them. And, we've been very blessed in our life, right, Noah, to be at the position that we're at. And this business has gave us so much. So it's good to give back and still make a few bucks at the same time. But, ask for our help. We'll help you. Even if we can help you figure out how to do it with me making no money, I will still give you that advice, right? We'll still be there for him for sure.
No charity here.
Yeah.
Just
I'll help.
I'm kidding. I'm just joking.
He's kidding.
So to give an idea of how much a huge market that is, because does anyone know how many forbearances there are right now in Clark County? Did nobody see the video with, of course, Noah? No, how many, Brandy was supposed to make it today. She wasn't feeling well, but Brandy was going to come and talk about the forbearances. If you saw the video that me and Brandy did, I was at this event speaking, and she was there. She was doing a talk on forbearances, and she had a report that showed how many forbearances were in Clark County. So when you want to know how many homes this is impacting by and how this is a huge part of the market, now this was about 45 days ago. So this number, 45 days ago, this is how many forbearances were in, let's see. That's right. These are how many forbearances was 2 months ago, right? Since then, more people and more homeowners are getting this. And how many forbearances 2 months ago, Noah? That's right. Almost 50,000 forbearances in Clark County. So when we tell you that, the government is trying to everything it can do to combat inflation, the cost of living for people, that is what that's the numbers in Clark County right now. And that was before this made public. And we talked about this in January because we saw a lot of people that were taking their houses off the market when the houses were 10, 12,000 because of this. And now it's going to get more and more because of this. So with that information, what do you think is going to happen with prices now? They're going to go up, right? Because it doesn't matter how many buyers you have. It doesn't matter your demand if your supply is always less than that demand, right? If that demand is, and that's what the Fed said. The Fed said we want to bring more inventory to the market in order to bring down prices and have people be able to choose houses. And that's backfiring big time because actually the lower rates has caused what? Less inventory because of what's going on.
Well, and I think, Steve, the other thing that the government didn't count on was everybody's focused on the millennials, right? Millennials are in their home buying years. They're the biggest population there is, but this Gen Z behind them. Anybody know this? There are more 25-year-old home buyers today than ever in our history. That generation is buying houses like crazy, and they don't care where they're buying them at. They're being smart about it. They're buying in other cities. They're smart enough to know that LA is too expensive. I'm going into the suburb, or I'm going to Vegas. So it's really an amazing opportunity to be in the real estate business. We just need more inventory, but like these guys are doing, sometimes you have to just create the inventory yourself.
Well, yeah, and then don't forget, we won't cover this too much because we talk about it every time, but the number one reason why Nevada is going to continue to have a shortage of homes, well, not the number one reason, but one of the top reasons, is because of the great state of California, right? I mean, their number one export is what? Well, that's their second number export. Their number one export is inflation, right? California is exporting inflation all over the country. Where all you got to do is look to see where Californians are moving to. Some of the houses they're going to Nevada, they're going to Idaho, they're going to Boise, they're going to Arizona, and the prices are going through the roof. Well, yeah. Does anyone know why? People always ask, why did all these people are leaving California? Why do the prices continue to go up in California? Because they're losing people. They lost, 500,000 last year? Well, it's back what we're saying. Even though all those people are leaving, they still have a 2.5 to 3 million housing shortage. So we see in the country has like 4 or 5 million housing shortage. Well, 2.5 to 3 million of that is California. So even though people are leaving, what's happening? There's still less supply because California, it's a nightmare to build houses out there, right? There was just a 9,000 community in Riverside that was supposed to be built that they canceled at the last minute after 10 years because of environmental things. So we're going to keep on seeing a shortage of houses and businesses continue to come here, which is going to create a more economic a boom here in Nevada. So that's another thing.
Steve, can I add a little something? I bought a duplex in LA last May, and
this is a good one.
you guys are gonna love this. So I bought it for $400,000, and it was worth probably, ARV was probably about $850 at the time. The people that had lived in there, been in there for 29 years. I took over. I have not made $1 since I purchased this thing. They don't pay me. The worst part is here, you evict somebody, you get them out 3, 4, 5 months. It's going to end up being about 2.5 years before I can get them out. That's how bad it is. I talked to an attorney. I had to go to a trial. I offered up to $50,000 per each tenant to get them out. And they're just like, we want to stay here till we die. Now, on the flip side, the good thing is when I bought it, the ARV was $850. Now it's $1.1 million. So, I have made nothing, but I do see the golden cloud here someday. Hopefully I'm still alive.
You should have said that could be arranged.
You can right?
So I will just say, like, sometimes when you do flips in certain areas, like I talked about hard money and things like that. If I would have bought that property with hard money, after 12 months, they will start the foreclosure process, whether you're in payment, you're on time or not. And so certain times you can end up bankrupting yourself. Leveraging is good, but leverage very smart because, again, like I said, I used to leverage myself heavily up to 2018. I had a learning lesson. I survived, but, when I had $35,000 a month in payments coming out at one time, and, you can sustain a lot, but when things dry up in 2008, my loan officer business, my realtor business, it all dried up. Like, I lost $1 million with an investment firm that was local. It was one of those things like the whole world was collapsing. And so that was part of, you just got to really be prepared what can happen on the downside.
Yeah, you can definitely see the realtors that were doing real estate in 2008 and the ones that weren't, because all the stuff that's been going on, the realtors in 2008 are yawning and going, yeah, And because this is not, I mean, there's nothing compared to what it was like that. Everything was a disaster then because they didn't know what to do. Now we know the playbook. We can predict what's going to happen now because we know what the Fed is going to, we pretty much know what the Fed's going to do. The Fed told us what they're going to do. And if the Fed and government would have done what they are doing now and previously back in 2008, that wouldn't have happened, right? Because all those loans that were bad, the countrywide loans and all that, all those layouts that were bad, what would have happened? They just would have been recasted and say, oh, here's a 2% 40 years, stick in the house. And they would have done that instead of foreclosing. Back to Aaron's point, they know now. Why are we going to foreclose? Because the government owns what's the government owned of the loans now? 92% of all the loans?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yeah, and FHA. So 90% of those loans are all the government's. The government's not going to foreclose on someone and then have to deal with that on the flip side. They're just going to keep them in the house. So Mike, a lot of times you say rates don't matter. That's your. In fact, I think it was on that $1,000 bill. Rates don't matter.
Rates are temporary.
Well, one of the things we learned my team learns through training tours, we get a lot of feedback from you guys, and I've been sitting there. A lot of you folks have been coming to T&T for years. I've known you for 30, and I keep hearing that you're not making any money because the rates. Susie Orem on television, I won't mention the channel. All they do is complain about the rates. The payments skyrocketed. So we had an epiphany one day. What no one mentions is that 1 year ago, in fact, we're passing around some spreadsheets we're doing. A year ago when rates, your medium rate was 484. Rate was, 5%, 5.5%, give or take. And today, that same exact house, it just hit 430 this morning, according to the RJ, but a week ago was 425. So if you compare, which we're going to show you in a spreadsheet, the 485, 484, the 5.5, whatever the rate was a year ago, compared today's rates and today's prices, the payment's almost identical. And like we were saying earlier, it's not the price, it's not the rate, it's what people want to pay. And Aaron's right. If they don't want to hear 7, then tell them 5. I think every loan in our office, we close with discount points. I think probably even 100% of them. So if they want 5.5, give it to them. Just charge them the points. But you guys, rates, really look at this and let it sink in. I mean, it sank into the Review Journal sitting here last time we did one of these with Steve, and they had me write an article in the paper that kind of went viral. The payment doesn't change because to make sure people know the price of the house came down by $50,000. Same exact house. So that's what you guys got. We got to help us as a society, especially in Vegas. So that was a big, huge key thing. And one of the things that we're doing besides that, because I've learned so much from training tour. I've done this for more than 30 years. And another thing we're seeing evaporate, like right in front of our eyes, is concessions. I mean, a lot of you guys thought, 4 months ago, we really tracked the builders' numbers. The concessions that the builders were giving in January, February, March seemed obscene. 6%, 3% buy down. We're doing forward commitments. We're giving you $70,000 in incentives. But you guys got to understand, our can rate, Southern Nevada Home Builders, their cancellation rate was 50, 60%. And I think a lot of you guys know when you buy a new home, you give them your earnest money and you keep putting down more and more money for your upgrades. Well, here's a fact of life. They don't get your buyers don't get that money back. So the incentives that builders were giving, they were taking from John Doe and given to the new buyer. They weren't giving the buyers anything. They were just shuffling money. But right in front of our eyes, we're seeing concessions and closing costs disappear. The couple contracts I got in the last couple of days, zero money from the sellers. I think that's going to get way more prevalent as we get into the year. So that's another reason what we've decided to do as a company is one of our big $250,000. Everybody's asking me who's going to win the $250,000. Well, nobody individually, but $250,000. We decided as a company to help with the closing costs on all our transactions with your buyers, be it new or be it used, because we really got to help the transactions get going. So we're going to help pay the closing costs. So if you guys, some of the stuff we're passing around, we're giving you a certificate for $1,000 for your buyers for their next closing with APM, because we have to do something. And I said earlier, every one of us, Aaron can attest to this, mortgage banks, we're losing money on every transaction. My divisional boss wants to have me committed. He says, so now we're going to lose another $1,000? I said, we got to keep this thing going because this will end. You guys have done this for a period of time. 2001, 2, and 3 was great. 4 and 5 was great. 7, 8, 9 wasn't so. Good time to retire for a couple of years when I got rid of Greystone, but now you guys dragged me back in. I never thought this was going to happen again, but this too shall go. And when it goes, it's going to be nuts. There's going to be such a lack of inventory, but the demand is going to be crazy. This new $1 million tax that California puts on sellers of $5 million and above is crazy. So the 500,000 people they lost last year is going to be nothing compared to what they're going to be this year. So we're here to help you. Everybody up here is here to help you guys, and we got to keep our town going. Again, people ask me why we put so much into Train and Tour. It's community. It's community service. We don't make money at that, believe it or not. Steve thinks I'm nuts, but it's good for our town. It's good for you guys. It's good for the builders, which is good for us. And I've been here a really long time. This town's been really good to me, and if I can do anything to help it get through this little phase, which we will get through, then that's what we intend on doing.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why businesses move here is because their employees have access to new homes. If you look at West Henderson now, that's like turning into Ontario, California. It's like a complete duplicate of Ontario, California, with a FedEx small airport. Like Aaron Taylor remembers old Airborne Express. So if you look at a map of Ontario in 1996, it looks like West Henderson right now, where the Raider facility is. There's an airport, there's a FedEx, there's a lot of warehouses. There's tons of new warehouses being built up there, which is going to bring a lot of high-paying jobs. There's another company going out there that I think the average job is going to be like $100,000 a year. It's some tech company. So those companies are leaving California, and they're going to come here. A lot of them are going to come here. Keep in mind, we only have, 2.2 million people? Just think if only 5,000 people a month come here from California, okay? Just think how that's going to impact our market. And like I said before, the California X is going to be a huge problem for California, but a huge boom for us, right? Bad news for their tax base, huge good news for our tax base. Aaron Taylor, real estate guy. So 2011 and 2023, what are some things that are the same, some things are opposite, and what are some techniques that we know for sure are going to work in 2023 because they worked in 2011?
Well, I'm going to go old school on you because I usually do. And I'm not going to do the meditating and the secret and all that. Me and him were bantering back and forth this morning. He goes, Aaron, when you talk, he goes, come on, man. Everybody knows you're into the secret. You meditate every day. And you have your mantra and all that. He goes, come on, Taylor. I said, all right, I won't go into that so much. But some things that we all stayed successful to some degree from like 2004 and 8 and 11 and up till now is that we can all agree that we need people, right? Yeah, am I right or wrong? You have to have people. You have to acquire people. And you do that based on like the information that we're all providing today. Take that information and get it out to the people that you know and let them know that you're a resource for them. My whole life, I learned very quickly that I wanted to be the person for all my people. And I didn't mind having someone say no to me either. Like right now in this room, we're all talking about what we do and what we can offer you. I want you guys to, I'm going to teach you something here right now. Write down this phone number for me, please. It's 702-498-3009. 702-498-3009. Okay, that's my cell phone. So when you have a client that wants to list a house and they need money or they need it to be fixed up and you don't have the resources or your broker won't let you, call me. We'll list it with you and split the commission. Hell, I just did one with somebody and gave them more than commission. But here's why I'm showing you I'm doing this. Some of you are going, okay, great, that's right. I take opportunities to do this. I'm not too concerned that some of you in this room aren't going to like me right now, and that's okay. But I'm taking an opportunity, right, to get more business, to get more help. I don't mind if half of you or 90% of you say, no, I would never do that. I only need a few of you, and I've already helped a few of you in this room. I know who you are. The difference is between the markets and the trends when it goes up and down, you need people, you need to acquire people and let them know your intentions. And always let them know your business intentions first. You guys, have anybody heard me talk about business first, personal second before? Anybody in the room? Just one? Good. I'm going to tell you real quick and then I'll stop. Whenever you need something for somebody, you want something, get to the point. Business first, personal second. Anybody in here have kids? You guys have kids? You ever got the phone call when they needed money from you? And they talk to you for 10 or 15 minutes and you knew it was coming. You're on the phone. You're like, it's coming, right? Just ask me for the $100 or the $1,000 so I can say yes or no and move on. So when we make our calls and our contacts, so when you meet people or when I talk to agents about coming over to our company, I'm not going to talk to you about your family and your kids and everything first, because then when I get to the business part, it just seems so inappropriate or so fake. So get to the business first. When you meet people and you talk to them, tell them your intentions, let them know what you want, tell them you have a business question. They're going to say yes or no. A no is just as good as a yes. So in 4, 8, 11, 20, all of them, if I ask you to join my company and you're a Coldwell banker and you say no, man, I needed to know that. It's just as good as a yes to me, but just get it out. Then go to the personal, then ask about them and their family and their business and help them. And it just sounds so much more genuine. So I guess I went off on a tangent a little bit, but the point I'm trying to make is we need people, acquire people, let them know you're a resource. Take all this valuable information from these smart guys here, like you guys see me on my phone. I'm not texting, I'm actually taking notes because they're very smart. They're all smarter than me. Be the dumbest guy in the room. That's why I'm on this panel too. So there you go.
It's a good point. If you took the agents that took notes from January's event and March's event and put that into action, they're probably having one of their best years ever because those notes were hit the new homes. The PPC on the new homes have gone up like almost 7 to 80 times what it was back in December, January, because guess what? The secret is out that new homes are the thing. So the cost of that keyword now has gone through the roof, right? You want to get these trends before everybody else now knows, because in today's technology, if you have a great idea, whatever the thing is, it's only good for 6 months at the most, right? Because the new home trend, if you didn't catch it quick, now it's a lot more expensive for that word, right? Now the everything's out. And like Mike was saying right now, you don't need a crystal ball. You guys are, all these professionals and experts on TV, they get it wrong all the time, okay? You are the experts. Get on social media and tell people, inform them, educate them, because they're getting horrific advice. Look at that clown Jim Cramer, okay? That's the kind of things people are listening to. That guy's been wrong. How bad is that guy, man? Jim Cramer. Everybody know who Jim Cramer is? This guy was telling people to buy Silicon Valley Bank days before it collapsed. And then he did it again with First Republic, right? So use the power of social media. Even if you're just reaching 30 people, 100 people, who cares? That's going to create value for you, and it's going to create them to go to you as the expert. Realtors have kind of lost that. Well, we can get it back with all this stuff going on in the economy on how it impacts real estate, how we live in a century plan economy, how we can predict. Oh, you can't predict prices. When the Fed tells you they're going to do something, you can predict it pretty good. When someone like Mike tells you that has all the research on the new homes that, hey, guess what? The new home concessions are going away. What does that tell you? Well, that tells you prices are going up, right? That tells you that, hey, no more price cuts anymore. No more $15,000, $20,000, $70,000 back for closing costs to buy down the rate for new homes anymore, right? So what does that tell you? Are the new homes going to stop doing those because they have a bunch of 30 homes staying in inventory? No, they're doing that because they know that, hey, we don't have to do that anymore. We can start raising the prices because our demand and supply is coming together. That's how we can predict what's going to happen. That's how we can catch the trends. And that's how you can get your buyers and sellers ahead of the crowd. Because if you don't get ahead of the crowd in this market, look at the buyers that didn't take our advice in January and February, right? Look at them now, under 500. They don't have a shot at getting a house. Well, they have a long shot, right, of getting a house, where in January and February, it was a sure shot, right? But they weren't paying attention to the trends and what was happening. And that's what we're going to do at the trends. That's what we try and do, is get that information out so you can share it with your clients and increase your value to your clients. The Fed. So we'll ask the Fed. What is the Fed? Well, the Fed doesn't even know what they're going to do, right? But how we predict is whatever the Fed does, then we can predict what's going to happen. Because once the Fed says or does something, then we know what's going to happen. The only question we have up here is, what is the Fed going to do, right? Are they going to bail out? We don't have enough time to talk about the multifamily and commercial, but the multifamily and commercial, that's going to be a big blow up, right? That's in fact, Blackstone's already their portfolio is 47% upside down. Go ahead, Jim.
I have a 7-plex down by the stratosphere, and it's been in escrow 4 times now. The problem with multifamily is a lot of times they have to debt service. The banks have tightened up their debt service coverage ratios. So with the REITs being extremely high, they're pushing almost 10% on some of these debt service ratio loans. Well, with this property, you have to put down 40% to almost break even. The crazy part is this property caps out. It's an 8.5 cap rate, which is phenomenal. I mean, it's a really good investment. But the problem is with these rates being so high, it's going to eventually kill a lot of the multifamily. And I saw it firsthand with this. I just got it in escrow again for the 4th time, but we will see what's going to happen. But multifamily is in trouble because the rates, the local banks are getting just smashed. People are pulling banks. They're the ones that are loaning on these things. Most commercial and multifamily. It's not the big banks. It's not Wells Fargo, Chase, or any of those guys. It's going to be your Nevada State Bank, your Zions, all those type of things. But that's my experience personally that I had. Buyers wanted it. Once they got one of them was like 8% when it started. Then it was 10.5%. And the guy's like, hey, well, I don't want to put 40% down to break even. I'm like, heck, I wouldn't either.
But are the appraisals even coming in? We're going to have that issue around the corner. That's going to be very big around the corner coming up again.
Hey, what about some of you saw some of these videos I was doing during the multifamily boom? Right now, the commercial is collapsing as we speak, right? It's not the tenants. It's not the tenants that are not paying, right? They're paying the landlord. It's the landlords, these big landlords that are saying, you know what? We smell blood in the water. We saw what the Fed just did. We saw the Fed panic on these small banks. So now we know we're going to stop paying. Because why are they going to stop paying? They're going to stop paying because they're going to force these small banks to what? I want my principal reduction and I want my rate reduced. And I want it done now. Oh, no, we can't do that. Okay, great. We ain't paying. We stop paying. These big hedge funds have already stopped paying on a lot of their commercial properties. In fact, the Wells Fargo building down there was in the paper. You can check this out on Bloomberg. I think it was one of the big hedge funds stopped paying because what? They wanted a reduction. And they know that the government is going to have to bail out these banks now because they've already shown it with the bonds. So that's what we're going to start seeing. And now we don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to bail them out? Because what happens if they bail them out? Well, guess what? Everybody's going to get a reduction. Everyone's going to have to get a reduction because what happens when you reduce that building over there? And that gives that owner a competitive advantage because now they can reduce the rents, right? And still make a huge cash flow. So that guy across the street over here in this building, they're still at the high rate. So they're going to stop paying. So it will create an avalanche if the Fed starts bailing all these small banks out and they do these loan mods on these commercial. And right now, there was an article in the Real Deal that the largest hedge fund, their portfolio is 47% upside down. So 47% upside down. That's why they're stopped paying. The largest landlord in San Francisco stopped paying. The largest building in Houston, skyscraper, they stopped paying on that too. So that is going to put the Fed against a corner. In my opinion, is the Fed's going to have to bail them out. The only question is how are they going to bail them out? We'll ask these guys what they think. Here's my opinion. They're going to have to reduce the rates back down to 2 to 3%. Either that or they're going to have to print trillions of dollars. Because once they reduce the rates back to 2 to 3%, all those values go back up again, right? Remember these multifamily units that were selling for $300,000, $400,000 a door in Las Vegas? You think they're making money right now? No, wait. What about, like Jim was saying, what about when they have to refi in the next 2 to 4 years? $2.4 trillion of commercial paper needs to be refinanced in the next 24 months. And trillion is a lot of money. Remember the trillion? We can't comprehend how much a trillion is. So the Fed is going to have to lower the rates more quickly than they wanted to. And don't forget, Silicon Valley Bank, they were saying they were bad management. Well, let's not forget the Fed told them what to do, number one. And number two, the U.S. government did the opposite. The U.S. government borrowed a lot of money at short term. So what happened the next 6 to 12 months when they try and refinance if the rates are still today? I think the rates will be back to 3% within 3 to 5 years. Mike, you're first. What do you think?
I think I better. You got a quarter? Flip? I think it's going to be a little bit of both. The Fed's got themselves in a really bad predicament. They're going to have to turn up the printing press, unfortunately, which drives inflation. They're going to have to drop the rates, unfortunately, it drives inflation. We have a predicament, but I think rates might get a tad better. It's going to be into next year, and I think the printing press is going to really get cranked up, and we're just going to print a lot more money. I think there's going to be some great opportunities, but I don't know. Retiring to Italy looks better every day. So I'm going to send you guys all postcards in about a year.
All right, Steve, here we go. Yes. Let's take a step backward. Bad economic news makes rates go down. Good economic news makes rates go up. That's kind of the way it is. Okay. We just went through a pandemic. It didn't get any worse than that. That's why rates were in the 2s and 3s. Okay. Let's not fool ourselves. That's why rates were in the 2s and 3s. The economy shut down. Okay. Fed thought that that's how you stimulate buying, which it did. They kept the foot on the gas too long, probably. Right? But in my opinion, they did, and I'm sure in your opinion either. We made a ton of money. I was thrilled they kept the money, that they kept the foot on the gas that long. But I don't see it the same way you do, Steve, in that, because I think that if you look at history, rates have only been under 5%, 6% of the time. Okay. Now I know people want payments and they see the 6.5 and they say, well, homes weren't 400,000. No, they weren't. But incomes weren't on average 80,000 either. Right. The balance there is not as horrible as it may seem to a buyer. So, yes, I think that a lot of the stuff is going to happen. I do think that the commercial real estate thing is going to be a problem. And I think that we live in a bailout society is just the way it is now, right? 2008 was a giant bailout, right? We didn't hold anybody responsible for the mortgages that they took on their houses. That first wave of people who went into foreclosure were bad luck. If they just would have held on a little longer, they could have got bailed out, right?
Right. That's right.
Right. And so how many people, there's probably a ton of people in this room that think to themselves, I let my house go into foreclosure. I short sold it. I didn't have to do that. I could have held on longer, right? So I think that, yes, I think that bailout's coming, because I think that the Fed has proven that they're not going to let small banks who hold 80% of those loans on the commercial side, they're not going to let them go out, just like they didn't let Silicon Valley go out. They found a buyer for First Republic. So I think that stuff's going to happen. But I do think that's bad economic news. I think that'll push rates down. I just think that we all got to get used to rates being normal, right? So 5% is normal. And so if it goes below, yeah, if Steve's right and it's 3, it means that we're going through a very difficult time economically, nationally. I just don't think that that's going to happen again, but I do think rates are coming down. I mean, I think that what we're seeing now is a temporary thing because of inflation, right? And so the challenge we're all faced with today is we have to live in today. We can't live in tomorrow. And if you would have asked us on this panel if we thought rates were going down probably 4 months ago, we all would have said 5% by the end of the year, 5.5%. But now it doesn't look like that. And the reason it doesn't look like that is because unemployment is staying low. Now, you could have a million theories on why unemployment's so low, but it's low. And that's the number that the Fed looks at, right? And so and that's not going to go up overnight. And the Yahoos of the world and the Googles of the world get big headlines when they lay off 20,000, 30,000 people. But at the end of the day, unemployment is historically low. And that's a problem for the Federal Reserve. Okay, that's a problem because the more money that people have, the more money people spend, and that drives inflation. And so it seems weird that part of your federal government wants you to get unemployed, but it's to manage a more stabilized economy. And so I just think that we're going to be dealing in that world, certainly the rest of this year, I think. So I think we also got to get used to rates being 6+ this year. And we don't want to, and if your buyer says, I'm not interested in 6+, figure out a way to get them to 5+. Right?
And then if everyone wants to know when the unemployment rate is going to go up, it's very easy. I found this out about 3 or 4 months ago because all the experts were saying unemployment was going to go up, right? That's a big driver. Well, does everyone know why unemployment is still low? The number one reason why? Google ERC, okay? It's PPP 2.0. So part of that $1.7 trillion non-inflation bill, whatever it was called, in October, that money still has to come, okay? It didn't just like come then. Now it is starting to come in. What ERC does is it PPP 2.0. So if you're a business and you're going to lay off people or you're losing money, you apply for this program. It's called ERC, okay? And it's good for the rest of 2024. This is why the Fed can understand and these experts can understand why unemployment is staying low. Well, if I'm going to lay somebody off and I'm losing money, I fill this form out, okay? And I can get whatever it is, I think it's $60,000 per employee, and I got to keep them for a certain amount of time, right? Well, there was a business right down the street from us, a mortgage business that was going to lay off the people and merge with another company, but they didn't. You know why they didn't? They got $700,000 from ERC. Another company, construction company, got 1.2, and another landscaping company that I know of got 1.4 million. So all those people that would have got laid off kept their jobs. So this is why unemployment is staying. So now if we follow this program, when this program runs out, what do you think is going to happen? Right? Unemployment's going to go up, and now we're going to start to see what should have happened, what the experts predicted right now. Jim, Aaron, you guys have any last words?
experts called experts when they're always freaking
I
wrong.
know it. Can you believe this? And in fact, there's a huge mortgage expert, right? This is how crazy times are. It's because you cannot go back to history and say, that happened then, so this is going to happen now, unless it's the last 10 years identical, because we've never printed so much money ever, right? A perfect example, there's this mortgage expert that, I mean, I've been following him for a long time. This guy was always right, always right. I mean, in 10 years, I don't think he was ever wrong. The last 18 months, he's been wrong almost every single time, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Call them opinionators.
Yeah. So, and the reason why he's wrong is because he's going back, looking at the past economic cycles and all that. Well, that doesn't matter because you're not taking into account ERC. One of the reasons why he thought rates were going to drop is because of unemployment. Well, we're in the trenches. Now you know that ERC is going to have an impact on our real estate market. It's going to have an impact on rates. Jim.
Well, we never gave people thousands of dollars to stay home before, right? And so you have to. There's no way to factor that. So the past data doesn't apply today. So to Aaron's point, who's an expert? An expert who is somebody who reads data, tries to predict what's happening. The data is not. It doesn't matter what the data shows.
We're kind of right.
Yeah. No, we're everyone in this room. You're in the trenches. I'll take your advice over any of these experts any day of the week. You want to find out what's going on in the economy? Go to a restaurant owner. These people know what's going on because these people at high level, the Fed, they have no clue. They've been wrong every single time. Look at Jerome Powell said in front of Congress 2 days before Silicon Valley Bank. Do you think raising the rates is going to have a negative impact on the banking industry? Oh, no, we're very strong. Okay, 48 hours, the second largest collapse in American history, banking happened. That's your expert? That's the guy running our economy.
We have a question from Michael Vestudo.
Do we know what the default rates are on the SBA loans that they did during the pandemic? Because those are all came due about 6 months ago, and all these businesses that got that money that aren't paying on that, when's that going to start coming into play here?
Well, that's probably not going to, we're not going to see those numbers probably for 12 to 18 months because the ERC money. Everyone look at the ERC, Google that, and then call a company. What happens is these companies are doing ERC for companies, and they get a 20% cut of the money that the company gets. So it's billions of dollars going into our economy right now, right? And don't forget, when people aren't paying their mortgage, we talked about this in 2011, 2012. It's a secret stimulus, okay? It's a secret stimulus because if I ain't paying my mortgage, what am I doing? I'm spending money elsewhere. So it's a secret stimulus. I talked about this on CNBC in 2011 and 2010 all the time. They couldn't figure out how the economy was going up, up, up. I'm saying, listen, these people aren't paying their mortgage. They're doing over here. Everybody had new cars, kind of like 2020. That's why we're saying 2020, 21. Oh, this is just like a recapture of what happened back then. Go ahead.
How do you guys think the CPI report coming out in 2 days and again in June, since it's going to be a 12-month overlap of all bad, do you think that'll give us some immediate relief on rates?
Thank you, Jason. Mike, we were so closely watching the CPI report month after month after month, hoping that, right, inflation's coming down and then rates are the Fed's going to take the foot off the gas and then mortgage rates are going to come down. I think the challenge today is that it's unemployment as much as anything, right? So that CPI number could be down at 4, and I don't think that the mortgage market Mike, I don't think the mortgage market would respond.
Honestly, I think the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is so. I don't believe anything they say.
Yeah.
I think our inflation's 12%. I think it was 22. Even if it does hit 4.5, 5, I don't think it's going to change anything for us.
But it's just one piece of data, and we should all be rooting that inflation is going down because at some point, rates do have to come down. Now, everybody knows, right? You've seen enough lenders tell you that the Fed rate is not tied to mortgage rates, right? It's separate, but there is an ancillary effect, so we do want to see that continue down.
Well, see, we're all buying and selling houses and helping people list homes and buy homes and the whole 9 yards. But as an agent, even Noah, chime in, you're a smart guy. Through all this that we've been talking about, where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity?
Lots of opportunity.
No, but give us one nugget. Give me a nugget like, okay, I change my business constantly based on what's going on with the market, right? And I try to find that niche like we do, right? If it's flips, if it's repair homes, if it's loaning money or whatever it is. I know, Noah, there you go, baby. Share it, Noah. What's the opportunity?
So here's what it is, guys. So first of all, you have to go back and kind of see what it is. Like, I've been in real estate the majority of my life. Did traditional real estate, then REOs came. I hated REOs, right? We did REOs. We did 4,000 REOs. Short sales, hated them even more. Did about 2,500 to 3,000 short sales. We have to do investments. So, all the news that we take, like the last thing we hear is you program, the LLP, people for bad credit, right? So what do we do with that? So what do? I put a commercial, look on channel 13, channel 5. Hey, do you have bad credit? It's time for you to buy a house, new government program. Guys, there's always a silver lining. Work with what you have. I haven't bought houses in the last year. I bought 2 houses. I normally buy 50 to 80 houses per year. This last 45 days, I bought 5 houses. Why? Because when everybody was buying them, there really wasn't deals. You know, some people like Jim's always made a ton of money. Him and I we've done a couple deals together. But now all the investors got hurt because they got private money. So now we're jumping in, and our returns, minimum 20%. Some are 35 to 40%. And what I mean by 30%, not for the year, that's for a 3-month time. So you look at that, I'm making 100% on my money. And Jim is right. Be very, very, very careful if you do take private money. If you have people that, you know, that are losing their house X, Y, and Z, reach out to any one of us. But there's always opportunities, guys. You have to see them. You have to, you know, look through the cracks, look through everything. I took a gentleman with me the other day, Gabriel, stand up, right? Gabriel over there, he's a business owner, realtor. He actually just opened up a new restaurant bar called Candelabria. We do stuff out there. I took him with me to a flip, and we ran into some squatters. And how we deal with squatters. Well, how do I know how to deal with squatters? Because I evicted thousands of squatters in our houses. We treat them with respect, and we get them in and out, give them $20 and tell them to go, or they're calling the cops. So anyways, just keep moving.
Your median sales price, $430 now? Is that where we're at? Right? Am I right? $430? $425? $430? So do you guys all anticipate us being back at our peak of $485? Do you see it going up by the end of the year? Do you see us getting close to
Well,
that?
there's two things on that, right? So back to Jason's question about inflation. How do we know inflation's going to go down? Okay, we know the inflation rate's going to go down. Why? Because first of all, like Mike said, it's all nonsense, but really, because it's a higher amount, right? So what's 10% of 100,000? 10, right? 10,000. What's 5% of 200,000? That's right. But what happened? Inflation's the same, right? Because it's a higher amount. So when the numbers they're using now for comparison are the higher numbers, right? So the rate of inflation is going to go down. That's why they don't go back 2 or 3 years. Because if they went back 2 or 3 years, we'd still have high inflation, right? So we know that the inflation rates is going to come down lower because of the higher numbers that they're using, the rate. But the actual number of inflation is still going up, right? The actual real number is still going up. That's why you got to make sure that your clients know that the paper dollar is falling and they got to buy hard assets, right? There's no excuse not to buy hard assets right now, right? Now is just a huge opportunity where it's to protect yourselves.
But what is a hard asset exactly? People want to know what a hard asset is.
Hard asset is gold, silver, housing. And look, the number one hard asset that to protect yourself against inflation is real estate, right? That's one thing we know for sure. They're not building enough of that, right? So that is the number one hard asset. Stocks, all that stuff helps fight off inflation too. But look, we're in real estate, right? It's the number one avenue to protect yourself from inflation and create cash flow. Unless you're in Oakland, Alameda County, or LA County where you can't collect rent. But other than that, all the places you can collect rent in the U.S.
Steve, you know where else is I think is a huge opportunity, Noah, is that, I don't know if anybody looks at it, but it's an amazing report. Redfin has an amazing local report. If you type in Las Vegas market Redfin, okay, it'll give you the data, literally every data you could ever imagine on the Vegas market. One thing they started rolling out was the migration numbers. Where are people moving from and where are people moving to? And so everybody's coming from LA. Like LA is the top. So if I were an agent today, I don't know why I wouldn't do some seminars in Southern California about, so you want to move to Vegas. Why aren't we proactively reaching into the Southern California market? Because they don't care. 430 is amazing to them, right? And getting rid of 13% state income tax is amazing to them. Or, you know, if the house is over $5 million, you see Drake sold his out. All these people are selling their house because there's a new tax coming out. Yeah, man, all these people they're moving for a purpose. They're moving for one reason.
I'm telling you, Aaron, what I've seen is I've helped a couple just recently, like billionaires, buying places here like Waldorf or whatever, spending a few $1 million like nothing, just because they're in California and their CPA accountant, their lawyers, because all these lawyers work for them, are saying, go do this. So there's a big trend going. I mean, it's always been that way, right? But I can see it more now than ever.
Yeah, you want a number one positive nugget right now. Everybody, as soon as they get out of here, should call their title company and get a list of all the investors in Oakland, Alameda County, and LA County, and start telling them, hey, buy an investment in Las Vegas, because I'm telling you right now, those are the most frustrated investors in all of the world right now. And do a little research. Out Oakland, Alameda County, there's tenants, okay, that haven't paid in 2 to 3 years that have moved out, and they are renting their rooms out to the tenants, and they're collecting the money. So the landlord that owns those fourplexes and owns those houses isn't collecting the money. The tenant is, and the owner can't even evict that. So right now, you want to make your investor database blow up, hit those people out there. And right now, the mom and pop investors in Oakland, Alameda County, 15% rate default right now. Go ahead.
Andrew Johnston, Go Global Realty. Just wanted to touch on something from the Property Management Committee meeting from this morning. Nevada's ranked in the top 3 asset protection states in the country. And so if you're targeting people who are relocating from California, which ranks near the bottom 3, that's a big selling point, as they can protect their assets from liability, from lawsuits, from divorce, from things of that nature. So it's another thing for everyone to kind of consider.
Excellent. Thank you.
Perfect. Also, another thing to consider for those who don't know, I sit on LMT, which is Legislative Management Team, for the last couple of years, and there's a lot of changes happening, guys. Rent control, a lot of ugly things that your association's been fighting. So I'm not here to say, hey, give money to the association, to RPAC, but it's really important because these guys, I'm one of the guys, literally, it takes me about 80 to 100 hours that I read bills. And, rent control is one of the things on the chopping block, real property transfer tax, sales tax on service. So donate. Sorry, this little commercial.
Hi, Judy at Simply Vegas. And to, I think, Aaron's point in the very beginning, are the builders going to stop co-oping?
Oh, we can't talk about that here.
We can either confirm or deny.
Yeah, I can, because sometimes I just don't care. We can't. But yeah.
No.
Yeah.
All right. I think
Once again, thank you for the gourmet brunch that Mike, and don't forget your $1,000 for your buyers, American Pacific Mortgage. Thank you for all these.
All right. And wait, one more thing. Good for the order. Realtor of the Month nomination forms and the policy, PSF investment pledge, PSF raffle. The next meeting will be July 13th, 2023, 11 to 12:30. I call for adjournment. Can I have a second?
Second.
So moved. Meeting is over. Thank you for your time.